The War Council chamber aboard the Crithian flagship Devastator's Pride hummed with the low growl of a dozen alien species, each representing conquered worlds across 3 galactic quadrants. General Vaxithor, a towering Crithian warrior standing nearly 4 meters tall with obsidian exoskeleton plating and 6 razor-sharp limbs, surveyed the holographic display with satisfaction. The human colony of New Carthage would fall within the week. The humans send this. Vaxithor's mandibles clicked in what passed for Crithian laughter. As a new hologram materialized before the council, Winnie stood perfectly still in the projection, barely reaching 1.6 meters, her slight frame dwarfed by the armored delegates surrounding her. Her dark hair was pulled back in a simple braid, and she wore the plain gray uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps. No weapons visible, no armor, no enhancement suits that other species favored. "I am Ambassador Winnie Chen of Earth." Her voice came through the translator, calm and clear. "I've come to negotiate the terms of your withdrawal from New Carthage." The chamber erupted in a cacophony of alien laughter, clicks, roars, hisses, and sounds that had no human equivalent. Vaxithor leaned forward, his massive frame casting shadows across the hologram. "Withdrawal?" The general's translator struggled to convey his amusement. "Little creature, your species has held exactly 0 victories against the Crithian Empire. You possess no weapons that can pierce our shields, no ships fast enough to escape our hunters, no soldiers strong enough to match even our weakest warriors. What makes you think you can negotiate anything?" Winnie's expression didn't change. "I'm not here to negotiate with weapons, General. I'm here to offer you a choice. And what choice is that?" Vaxithor mocked. "How quickly you wish to die. Whether you'd like to leave with your pride intact," Winnie replied, "or whether you'd prefer to learn why humanity has a saying, the smaller the fighter, the harder they bite." Vaxithor's patience evaporated. "Enough of this farce. Commander Zix, demonstrate why these humans should fear us." An insectoid warrior, still massive compared to Winnie but smaller than Vaxithor, stepped forward. In one fluid motion, he drew a plasma blade that crackled with energy. "I could cut you in half before you blink. Human." Winnie tilted her head slightly. "You're welcome to try." The hologram flickered off. 3 hours later, Winnie materialized aboard the Devastator's Pride in physical form, transported by the very beam technology the Crithians had used to abduct human civilians. But this time, she came willingly. The same War Council had gathered, though now the atmosphere crackled with tension rather than mockery. General Vaxithor rose from his command throne. "You are brave, I'll grant you that, little human. Or perhaps simply foolish. You stand in the heart of our flagship, surrounded by the Empire's greatest warriors. Do you truly believe you can—" He didn't finish. Winnie's hand moved in a blur of motion that even the Crithians' enhanced optical sensors struggled to track. 3 throwing knives, simple, primitive weapons of folded steel, flew from concealed sheaths in her uniform. They weren't aimed at Vaxithor. The first blade struck the primary shield generator's control node behind him, a target the size of a credit chip 30 meters away. The second severed the power coupling to the room's gravity stabilizers. The third embedded itself in the communication relay that connected the chamber to the rest of the ship. The lights flickered. The shields surrounding the council members vanished, and in the sudden reduced gravity, Winnie pushed off the floor with practiced ease. Commander Zix lunged with his plasma blade, but Winnie was already moving, her body twisting in ways that confused the Crithian combat algorithms. She had spent years studying in zero-gravity environments, had trained with every throwing weapon known to humanity, and had one advantage the aliens had never considered. Humans were persistence hunters, evolved to track prey across endless distances, to predict movements, to never miss when it mattered most. 2 more blades found their targets, the plasma blade's power cell and Zix's primary eye cluster. The weapon died with a whine, and the commander howled in pain and rage. Vaxithor roared and charged, his 6 limbs creating a whirlwind of strikes that should have overwhelmed any opponent. But Winnie had also studied under Eric Nakamura, humanity's foremost expert in xenocombat tactics, and her partner in the diplomatic corps' special operations division. Eric had taught her that every species telegraphed their attacks through biological imperatives. The slight shift of weight before a Crithian strike, The breath pattern before a Xynthian lunge. The thermal signature spike before a Grendel's charge. She read Vaxithor like a book written in a language only humans had learned to speak. Winnie ducked under his first strike, rolled between his legs as his second and third limbs sought to impale her, and came up with another blade, this one longer. A combat knife rather than a throwing blade. She didn't aim for his armored exoskeleton. She aimed for the joint between his third and fourth left limbs, where Eric's intelligence reports had identified a critical neural cluster. Specific to Crithian command-cast warriors, the blade went in perfectly. Vaxithor's entire left side went limp. The general crashed to the deck, his remaining limbs struggling to support his massive frame. Around the chamber, the other delegates backed away, reassessing the small human who stood calmly in their midst, barely winded. A blade in each hand. You were saying something about humans having no soldiers strong enough? Winnie's voice carried across the silent chamber. Strength isn't about size, General. It's about precision, adaptability, and the willingness to do whatever it takes to protect your people. Vaxithor's mandibles clicked weakly. How? Your species is so small, so fragile. We evolved on a death world, Winnie said quietly, lowering her blades but not sheathing them. Earth has more ways to kill you than any planet you've conquered. We learned to throw stones at predators that could tear us apart. We learned to track prey across continents. We learned that you don't need to be the biggest or the strongest. You just need to be the most determined. And you need to never, ever miss. She pulled a small device from her pocket, a communicator. Eric, signal the fleet. I think the General is ready to negotiate now. Static crackled. Then Eric Nakamura's voice came through, tinged with amusement. Copy that, Winnie. Though I think you made your point a little more dramatically than we discussed. He insulted my size, Winnie replied, the faintest smile touching her lips. Vaxithor's eyes narrowed as he processed her words. Fleet? What fleet? Our sensors detect no human ships. Winnie's smile widened just slightly. That's because Eric designed our new stealth coating. We've had 17 ships surrounding yours for the past 6 hours. You never saw them coming. Much like you never saw my blades coming. She paused. We humans have another saying, General. Speak softly and carry a sharp stick. I came here to speak softly. The sharp sticks are just insurance. The General's translator buzzed with what might have been a sigh. What are your terms, Ambassador Chen? Immediate withdrawal from New Carthage and all human territories. A non-aggression pact with Earth and her colonies. And Winnie crouched down to meet Vaxithor's eyes. A personal lesson that you'll take back to your empire. Never judge a warrior by their size. Judge them by whether their blades find their mark. She stood, retrieving her throwing knives with swift, practiced motions. Each had struck exactly where she'd intended, not to kill, not to cause permanent harm, but to demonstrate a level of precision the Crithians had never imagined possible. From such a primitive species, you have 1 hour to decide, Winnie said. After that, Eric and I stopped being diplomatic. General Vaxithor watched the small human walk toward the transport pad, her head held high, her movements graceful even in the fluctuating gravity. He had conquered 47 worlds. He had faced warriors from species that could crush starships with their bare appendages. But he had never faced anything quite like humanity, a species that turned their physical limitations into weapons, that made precision into an art form, that threw knives in the dark and never, ever missed. Agreed, he rasped. We withdraw. Winnie nodded once, then vanished in a shimmer of transport light. In the silence that followed, one of the council members, a Xynthian admiral, spoke quietly. General, shall we prepare countermeasures? Vaxithor looked at the knife wound in his neural cluster, perfectly placed to disable without killing. A centimeter in any direction, and it would have missed the target entirely. But it hadn't missed. The human had known exactly where to strike. No, he said finally. Spread the word across the empire. Humanity is not to be underestimated. Their ambassador was right. Size means nothing when your opponent's blades never miss. He paused, mandibles clicking thoughtfully. And I suspect that if we broke this treaty, we'd discover that blades are the least of their arsenal, far above the flagship, invisible against the stars. Eric Nakamura smiled as he watched the Crithian fleet begin its withdrawal. He opened a calm channel to Winnie's shuttle. "I knew they'd underestimate you," he said. Winnie's laugh came through warm and bright. "They always do, Eric. They always do." And in the grand tapestry of galactic history, the Crithian Empire learned what countless others would eventually discover. When humanity sends a small woman with throwing knives to a war council of giants, the smart money isn't on T.